Was it hanging? All right, quite the day. Quite the day. I'm an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. All of my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Updated position disclosure. I'm out of everything that I had in Apple. Options and stock. I'm out of TQQQ short. I'm out of Tesla short. I got into. I got out of yen options and NT in stock. Everything else I think is the same. From last time I did an afternoon meeting, which was Thursday. All right, let's jump in and talk about the stock market. SPY's down 1.7%. Q's down 2.8%. Looks like we're up $1 after the close. So that 2.8% that we're down includes a dollar bounce here from the close. So it was even worse. And the IWM down 0.9%, also up a little bit from where it closed. TLT closed green, interest rates are down. Dollar was flat to down today. So yeah, so it was a bloodbath. It was a deep swan, if you will. Deep seek, deep swan. It was a swan for the market. It's a decent little candle, actually, on these SPYs. Decent little rally candle. We pretty much closed on highs today because we rallied in the last 5 minutes. So this market's not broken. The market's not broken. Maybe you could argue that the bullishness of this market broke, and now we're back down to that neutral category again. That's what I was kind of arguing with Greta when I was speaking with her in the middle of the day today. So 600 was pretty important for the SPYs when we broke above that last week, because we got above the pivot low of the downtrend from, sorry, the pivot high of the downtrend from January 6th. So this market's staying above 600. It's important. We got smoked, obviously, off the open and into the gap down, but we closed well. So we didn't close back above 600, but we closed pretty close to it. So let's see if this snapback rally off this gap down can continue tomorrow, and we just forget about this whole event that occurred today, or if we hold that 600 as resistance and work our way down. Hard to say. The bullishness of this market is broken, but I wouldn't say that the market itself is broken. We're certainly not back to bearish, and it was a decent close. For the Qs, this is obviously where the damage occurred. NVIDIA getting absolutely demolished. NVIDIA down 16%, also up $1 after the close. NVIDIA lost, where was it? I know one of you guys just posted it. NVIDIA lost $589 billion in value today, the most in market history. Wow. So obviously that had an impact on the Qs. We, both pre-market and at the open today, were in extreme downside extension in the Qs today, which is incredible considering that I think at highs on Friday we're at extreme upside extension. So that's a hell of a move, and pretty much the entire thing came from the gap down. I was not ready, and still am not ready, really, to make a major stand on the NASDAQ on the long side, even at $10 extension with such a big gap. Some day trades make sense, some long day trades, especially off the open when you have not only the large time frame extension, but the small time frame extension. So looking for those initial longs made sense. And then we got like a 15-minute correction off that. And then this was highs. We called this out as a short intraday, actually. And I remember when we started to break down, even on this 945 candle, I think when this 945 candle closed, I said, I think this is going to be the high of the day. So that was actually a pretty good call if anybody had that short. So there was good day trading opportunity today. Long off the open to satisfy the extension, short after the extension was satisfied really on the 15-minute chart, and we got this little candle that came in. So it satisfies some of this extreme downside extension, but even at the close here, we're extended down by $7 from the ADMA on the daily chart. So pretty nasty move. Pretty nasty move. The IWM, which we could take a quick look at, is fine as long as it, in my opinion, continues to hold above 226. which it traded below 226 at one point today, but managed to close above. So it's still kind of in this little bullish consolidation above resistance of the break higher on that bear flag that happened in the IWM. So, but the real question that I don't have an answer to, I don't think anybody has an answer to, is when you look at this NVIDIA that had its worst day ever maybe, and lost more in market cap than any stock in history, and closed below the 200-day, and closed down, I don't know, 16 to 18%, something like that. Is this just a buying opportunity or not? Every major sell-off in NVIDIA has been a buying opportunity for probably as long as we can remember now. Is this different off of this news? I don't have the answer. There's a ton of speculation out there from everybody. Everybody's got an opinion. The price action is what pays. I can give you my thought process on it. I do think it's a game changer, and I'll just kind of restate what I said in the morning meeting today, and I also said it with Greta in the middle of the day today, is that I don't know who's going to be right. There's a lot of different opinions that's out there right now. It seemed like there was a lot of sell-side analysts that were coming out and defending the stock. There was a lot of chatter on, I think they call it is it the Jansen paradox? Where, yeah, sure, if the need for GPUs goes down because, and this is even assuming that the technology is real coming out of DeepSeek, where they're able to do this with so much less firepower than all these other companies have been able to do it with. Maybe there is this Jansen paradox that can come into play where it just cheaper AI makes for greater adoption of AI, which therefore means even more GPUs need to be bought. My argument is that maybe that's true. Maybe this is just a blip in the radar for NVIDIA's business and they work their way higher. But I think at least in the short run, it creates a question mark because we just don't know. This question mark didn't really exist on Thursday, Friday last week. We weren't having to have a discussion on, is there a threat to NVIDIA's margins? Is there a threat to CapEx when it comes to NVIDIA GPUs? It was not a conversation. Now the conversation is people making the argument that it will have no impact or potentially even a positive long-term impact. Other people make an argument that it does have an impact. But the bottom line is that question mark is uncertainty, and uncertainty is what the market doesn't like. So I would argue that regardless of how this plays out in the long run for NVIDIA's actual business, in the short-term intermediate time frame, this is bearish because the market hates uncertainty. The market has to price in uncertainty. It has to price in a probability that this entire situation with DeepSeek is as real as it gets, that CapEx slows down, that the big AI spend that's been coming from the other, Amazon and Meta and Google and Microsoft does not justify the ROI. I already cited that a couple weeks ago as one of the major risks to the market even to begin with. And now we just have this whole extra variable that's in there. On top of that, if we want to analyze the technicals, NVIDIA had a breakaway gap to the downside. There's massive support between 130 and 127 in this NVIDIA, and we gapped below it and held below it today. I know we ticked up at one point, but we gapped below it and basically held below it all day. So anyone that bought NVIDIA in October, November, December, January is underwater on that. And anyone who's in the money says, ooh, I just gave back some profit. Now there's some uncertainty. Maybe I should just book some of this profit that I have. So I think it's a pretty bearish situation for NVIDIA, both from the perspective of those qualitative fundamentals, in other words, the story of the stock, and I think it's pretty bearish from a technical perspective unless we can really recapture that 127 to 130. There's certainly a lot of downside extension here. We could have a big bounce back. We could easily bounce back and retest 130 just because of the downside technical extension. But watch out if we hold down here and this 80 EMA catches up. I think that could be a big problem. I've got other opinions on DeepSeek itself, but I'll keep them to myself, I guess, unless anybody really wants to hear them. Just move on. So that's kind of where NVIDIA's at. And then obviously, the NVIDIA story has become the entire market. That's the other thing that we got to keep in mind. Mag 7 or Mag 8, whatever we're calling it now, I think is like what 35% of the S&P and 49% of the Nasdaq at this point. So if the entire story is changing on the AI situation, and that impacts, and we'll take a look at Amazon and Meta and these other Mag 7 stocks in a second because there's some interesting looking charts after today. But if that entire story is changing, if there's a threat there, these stocks, the market cap weighting of these stocks is just so massive. So that the question does it finally become, does money actually come out of those names? And if it does, where does it go? Does it just go into cash because interest rates are pretty high? On NVIDIA continuing to rally here. Or does it rotate? Does it rotate into international markets? Does it rotate into energy or industrials? We'll see. Or even the IWM. I kind of posited that a couple weeks ago too, and that was obviously before the story even hit. I think we got to get through these other Mag 7 earnings. Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. We got some of them this week. I'm not sure the exact dates on all of them off the top of my head, so just make sure you know when your companies are reporting. But let's take a look at some of those other charts. So obviously, NVIDIA here, big problem, closing below the 200-day. Really needs to recapture that 127 to 130 area. I think it's going to be very difficult for it to do it. I'm not ready to take a stand on that. AMD, they also smoked down. I don't think that this should have as much of an impact on AMD, but it does have an impact on AMD. Taiwan Semiconductors, fairly rightfully smoked on that. But then when you look at some of these other names, it's a little bit interesting. So Apple, we did a great job this morning saying that if you're going to buy anything, you want to buy Apple on that news. I was a little bit concerned about this downward trending technicals and buying a weak stock into a declining ADMA, but the Apple story on AI is so different than the story on these other names. They're not involved in that heavy capital expenditure. They're not in the arms race on who becomes the best AI. They're more, I think, doing a great job positioning themselves just to participate with whoever the winner is going to be. Let the Apple users choose which AI they want to actually utilize, and then they can build it into Apple, into Siri, into whatever. On top of that, what I mentioned in the morning meeting was one of the things that's been hurting Apple a little bit has been that they have not been able to come up with a Chinese AI partner for their phones. And maybe, I don't know, but maybe with this DeepSeek event, it enables them to be able to get an AI partner on the China side as well, which I think would actually very positively impact the stock. So going long Apple today was the right call. It certainly overshot my upside expectations on an intraday basis. I thought Apple could be relatively strong to everything today. I did not expect that they were going to rally Apple from 224 up to 232, but it certainly helped me make a couple bucks in the stock. So I'm not complaining. So that was certainly an interesting one. Google struggled a little bit to rally back today. Google, I think, is kind of trading in no man's land zone. I like the idea of the stock more than I like the technicals right now. It needs to get back up and recapture like 197.50 and work on that $200 again. There's big support at 187.50 that it's still above, so it's not a broken stock either, but it certainly lost a degree of its bullishness. The ones that were a little more confounding to me were Meta and Amazon. I'm really surprised to see Meta green today the way that it is, with the Nasdaq down as much as it is off of the news that happened. Incredibly strong. Meta went from a low of like 625 to closing at 660 on the day and a high of 664. I think this is the only name I lost money in day trading today. I lost a few bucks trying to short Meta when I got into like the 650 area for the first time on the way up, and then I realized that it might have been moving on some news. So I don't know that news didn't even make that much sense to me. So the kind of chatter on Meta's up move when it was happening, this massive move here from red to green, was that the DeepSeek stopped taking people into its infrastructure who, I'm not sure if it's you have to have like a Chinese ID or a Chinese IP address in order to be able to get it, but that's what the language was. So I reached out to a contact of mine, spoke to someone about this today who is from China, and had actually I spoke with the person on Friday and mentioned Chinese AI to me, and in my head I was like, oh yeah, of course China's competing on AI. It makes a lot of sense that they're going to do that. Did not expect in a million years I was going to wake up to a Chinese AI black swan destroying the market this morning after I had that conversation on Friday. But I spoke to him again today through some messages, and he told me that the only reason that they're not taking like U.S. customers right now is because they got such an influx of demand for it that they couldn't handle the registration of everybody. So they shut it down to only like Chinese users for now, just so they could get their infrastructure in place because they were not expecting to see such a huge demand all at once for this product. Um, take that with a grain of salt. You know, I don't have that verified from the company itself or anything like that. Just kind of what I heard in discussions with some people I would think would be in the know. But all the same, Meta's rip on this move, I found to be kind of mind blowing. I think that I would have thought, I should say, that in order for Meta to regain some strength, it needs to get through its earnings report at this point. I thought that this should have hit this stock down. I thought it should hit Amazon down. I thought it should hit Google down. I thought it should hit everything down that's in that heavy AI spend, that heavy capex AI spend, because now there's a chance that they're just wasting money if that's what they're doing, or they need to change their business. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But Meta's strength was mind-blowingly incredible to me, and that's one that I did lose a little bit of money on trying to short. Amazon also, hell of a snapback in this Amazon. It is now trading green. It closed pretty much flat on the day. Actually, I think it closed a little bit green on the day. Sick snapback in some of these names. Really impressive, especially when you consider the Qs didn't do it. Qs bounced off lows, but they didn't close flat on the day. And I didn't expect that today. I said this in the morning meeting also. This didn't strike me as one of those days, even though we were down so huge this morning, that I should be giving a morning meeting that says, hey, let's get ready to buy everything. This is like a huge opportunity for us all to make money in this deep downside extension on day 5 down or whatever. It did not strike me as one of those days. I came in today saying to myself, I'm going to manage my swings, which luckily opened very favorable to me overall from a portfolio perspective. I'm going to manage those swings. I'll put on some day trade scalps, but I'm not looking to take a stand on any new real positions at this point because I don't think that they're going to buy NVIDIA all the way back up, and I think that all these other stocks that are heavily involved in the AI situation should be negatively impacted as well. So yeah, I was right on NVIDIA. I was right on the semiconductors. I was very right on the Apple call, but definitely would not have expected in a million years for Meta to close as well as it did, or even Amazon to close as well as it did. Google makes a little bit more sense to me. Microsoft, it's a hell of a snapback also. Wow. I didn't look at Microsoft at all today until right now. The 435 is really important in Microsoft. So stock trading above that level is important, but we might just get a little bit sloppy here now until we get through the earnings reports on some of these names because the market itself has become so much more neutral. So we'll see. I think that covers everything for me on my end. Is it worth talking about any of the day trades I put on? Not really. The CRM was a really good call off this low. I kind of just scalped it. There was a lot. I left a lot on the table if I wanted to be a little bit more greedy on that trade. Q's looking for a little rally into the close was a good trade also off this low when I called that one out. A couple other okay ones. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have. We demand the opinion. Okay, so if you want my opinion on DeepSeek, so there's a lot of chatter out there. I saw chatter from multiple resources out there this morning. A few different resources that I consider to be smart money. That was basically trying to get across an opinion that this news out of DeepSeek, which I see Varun here is calling deep fake, can't possibly be real. Because they just haven't spent enough money to be able to do it. And how is it possible that the brightest minds in the room who lead the greatest companies in the world, who are involved in massive amounts of spend at Microsoft and Meta and all the rest, could be so wrong in spending as much money as they have when there could have been a cheaper, easier way to do it? I've seen that opinion come out from multiple resources, and maybe it's accurate. I do think that when it comes to Chinese companies, especially smaller Chinese companies, you got to be very careful. I've always said, even when I become a bull on China, I always make sure to emphasize I'm a bull on what I call the Chinese majors, like Alibaba, Baidu, JD, like the big companies. We've just seen a lot of fraud over the course of the years come out from smaller Chinese companies. So is that opinion, which seems to be getting popularized by a lot of smart money, is that opinion potentially correct? It could be, but I also I have a little bit of a different thought process on it, and partially it's, I guess, just from my own experience in dealing with um, foreign students who attempt to get H-1B visas. So there was a time when I first started my physical trading desk in New York, in it was like in 2014. I built a pretty good group of traders. I had like 30 something traders on the physical desk, along with myself and a partner. But 90% of them were not from the United States. Most of them were from China. Some of them were from India, and they were all really smart and really hardworking people. I recruited most of them after they finished getting their degrees, and these are primarily Ivy League graduates who were foreign and graduating from Ivy League universities with master's degrees and PhDs. And I was bringing them onto the trading floor, and they were really brilliant people, and they loved the United States. They loved being here. They were highly educated, fell in love with their culture, wanted to stay here, wanted to work here, wanted to pay taxes here, and we made it impossible for them to stay here. So hard for me to be able to sponsor. I sponsored a few H-1B visas over the course of the years, but it was so impossible. They really made it extremely difficult, and I've always had a big issue with U.S. immigration law, because it makes no sense to me that the best and the brightest in the entire world want to come here and innovate here and work here, and we kick them out. And then what are you going to do if you're from China and you came here and you just got a PhD from Yale or Columbia University, and we send you back to China? What are you going to do? You're going to innovate there. So this has been a problem that I've seen for 20 years now. So now you've got 20 years worth of extremely high educated people who received the best education in the world from the United States. you think that they can't take that education and go back to the United States and innovate? For me, I think it's only a matter of time that people from China and people from India, because and I go to those countries specifically because there was just such an influx of people from those two countries specifically who got higher education here over the course of the last 20 years. There's just a matter of time before they take that education and innovate. And for me, when I see this news come out, this is just an example of the innovation of probably a bunch of U.S. educated PhDs that are working on AI in China. So is it that ridiculous to think that they could come up with something that is outside of U.S. exceptionalism that has created the stock market to where it is today? I think it's just a matter of time, personally. So that's my thought process. So when I see everybody saying that like a lot of smart money saying that it can't be real that they were able to actually pull this off with the amount of money that they're saying that they spent on it, I think that there's a chance that they're right, but I also think that there's very much a chance that this is a very real thing, and that it's not deep fake, to use Varun's language. Only time will tell, because like I said, the flip side is we have seen tremendous amounts of fraud come out, especially from smaller companies based in China. I mean, Muddy Waters made a career off of it, right? So we will see what happens, but I think that it's a game changer. And at a minimum, I would go back to what I said about it adds a degree of uncertainty. Is it real? Is it not real? Well, there's a chance, you can put your percentage on that wherever you want it to be, that it is real, and therefore that uncertainty negatively impacts NVIDIA and Taiwan Semiconductors in a massive way, and then there's a read-through to all these other companies. So that is my opinion on it. It's just an opinion, and I'm only giving it because I was asked by like 7 people here. All right, scrolling through. From Billy, does the day trade now become when semis are down by chip consumers like Apple? I don't necessarily think so. I think that Apple trade was different trade. When semis are up, short chip consumers. No, I don't think that's an inverse pairs trade. I don't think that's an inverse pairs trade that you necessarily will see consistently. I think that was today based on a very specific situation of Apple not being a huge AI spender and Apple potentially benefiting from the higher probability of getting a good Chinese AI partner to implement with their phones. Sorry, Varun. Thanks, Paul. Popping over to the YouTube. From Daddy Trades, I'd say the Meta CRM Snow. So CRM, yeah, I guess it's a data thing, right? We're strong because they have to do with infrastructure software phase of AI and the chip build out. So I know that, what's his name? The CEO over at CRM was coming out with a lot of comments on this morning that I thought were really smart comments about if this is true, we can have our debate about NVIDIA, but then it becomes about who owns the best data. And CRM is in that category, and that's probably why they perform so well. And as you say that, I know you're saying here specifically with the infrastructural software phase, Meta spent a lot of money, but Meta's got the data, right? They've got the data. So that might be the most important thing, and maybe that's why they bought this back. So maybe it's whoever's got the most data got bought back the most today. But then I would have expected that Google would have rallied a little bit better today also, because Google obviously has insane amounts of user data. Yeah, Oracle got smoked. Oracle, I think, had some other news out this morning also, and I'm totally escaping on what it was. From Apex Joy, I saw a test report on DeepSeek saying the performance of DeepSeek is not even close to OpenAI's. Okay, good to know. Plasma Lab thinks it's Chinese propaganda. I think that they gave numbers on what they're saying that they spent. And for sure, one of the things that you're saying is also something that is being cited by the same smart money about the timing of this immediately after the United States had announced Stargate. So also something to keep in mind, for sure. From Chi, what is the chance of those people from India and China just went to another country other than the USA rather than their homeland, like the UK, Canada, UAE, easier laws and immigration? I'm not sure. I could tell you that almost everyone that I know from those days are back in their home countries and not in UK, Canada, or the UAE. But that is anecdotal from my own contacts and connections who are over here getting educated in the U.S. They're all just about back in their home countries at this point. Robert saying, I read they spent $6 million. I read $5 million. Yeah, something in that range for sure. No problem. All right, anybody else have any questions? Potato chips? What's up, Varun? Yeah, let's take a look at AVGO. AVGO is an interesting one. I was really annoyed on Friday when I no longer had my swing that I was planning on having this AVGO because I got shaken out on the 16th. And this morning I was like, oh boy, I'm happy about that. I don't know enough about AVGO's business, to be totally honest, about Broadcom's business and how it works and how their business is impacted by this news compared to the others. I just don't, to be honest with you. So I don't have like a strong opinion on it. I mean, you got some gap fill support in this AVGO at 185, 186. I don't know if it'll work its way down there. I'd use today's low as an important spot. And then really you didn't want to see this thing get below that 211 from the gap into the gap. So it's trading into this gap right now. So it's tricky. Do I think it'll entirely fill the gap? I think that depends on what the market does. And I'm very uncertain about a neutral market environment that we're in right now. So yeah, the market's more neutral here. We got to see, do we get back above resistance? Do we go below support? And that'll probably determine on whether AVGO is getting back above that 210 or if it's working on a full gap fill. And ASML, yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on ASML either. There's big support down at that 655 to 660 area. And as another one, I don't know enough about these companies' businesses. It's just a little bit outside my knowledge set. Your experience with top 20 SPX. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's exactly what I was just talking about. That's what a lot of the smart money is saying is that it's not possible that this is real and that it is a fake. I just gave the only opinion I've heard from anybody on the opposite side of it, actually, which is my own, as a possibility that it has a higher. All I'm saying is I think it has a higher probability of being real than most people are giving it credit for. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is real. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. There's no way I can know. But I'm just saying that there's a higher probability, I think, of it being real than the vast majority of what I've read from a lot of people. And then, like Vikas just said, at a minimum, it adds doubt. It adds doubt, and doubt is uncertainty, and markets abhor uncertainty, and therefore you trade at lower prices and lower multiples, etc. Plasma Lab and the YouTube saying it's a copy of U.S. Innovation. Sure, but most of a lot of the technology we look at are copies of other innovations and that's a lot of how development takes place. And you could just look at Facebook's entire business. just so much of their business is kind of stealing ideas from other places and putting it in their own infrastructure, and in some ways making it better, but starting by copying other people's innovation. Uh-oh, Bill's giving me the memes. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Looks like we got through the questions. Wild day today, a lot more uncertainty. The market's in a neutral area here, so it's tough. I think we need some clarity to come from big tech earnings and from the Fed. So let's get through this week. It's supposed to be a really wild week. I'm actually out a few days next week, and Josh is out entirely next week. So we'll see how that plays out. But it's going to be a big week, and hopefully by the end of this week we have a little bit more clarity on everything. Because I just think right now that's what we're missing. We're missing a lot of clarity and just a lot of uncertainty. So have a great night, everybody. See you all tomorrow.